You treat yourself worse than you would treat a convicted criminal, and you think that makes you disciplined. If someone talked to your child the way you talk to yourself, you'd call the police. If someone criticized your best friend the way you criticize yourself, you'd end the friendship. If someone judged a stranger the way you judge yourself, you'd consider them a sociopath. Yet somehow, when the victim is you, this abuse becomes acceptable. In fact, it becomes admirable. People wear their self-criticism like a badge of honor, as if torturing themselves proves their commitment to excellence. But here's what no one wants to admit. The people who are kindest to themselves consistently outperform those who are harshest. The science is clear, the evidence is overwhelming, yet we continue to worship at the altar of self-punishment, because admitting we're wrong means admitting we've been voluntarily destroying ourselves for years. You wake up at 6 a.m. and before your feet even touch the floor, it starts. That familiar voice in your head begins its daily assault. You're already behind. Everyone else is probably up and working. You should have gotten up earlier. You're lazy. You're not disciplined enough. And this is just the first 30 seconds of your day. This voice follows you to the bathroom mirror where it critiques your appearance. It rides with you to work where it questions every decision you make. It sits beside you during conversations, whispering that you said something stupid. It reviews your day each night, creating a detailed report of everything you did wrong, everything you could have done better, everything you failed to accomplish. Sound familiar? You are not alone. You are fighting an inner war that millions of people fight every single day. The enemy is not outside. The enemy lives between your ears. And it never takes a day off. But here's what most people don't understand about this internal battle. The voice that's supposed to be your greatest ally has become your harshest enemy. The mind that should be your most powerful tool for success has turned into a weapon pointed directly at your own heart. Let me tell you something that might shock you. The way you talk to yourself right now is probably worse than how your worst enemy would talk to you. Think about that for a moment. Your own mind has become more destructive to your life than any external force could ever be. I once knew a brilliant woman named Katie who had built a successful marketing company from nothing. On paper, her life looked perfect. Six-figure income, beautiful home, respected in her industry. But every morning, she woke up in a state of anxiety. Every project she completed was never good enough in her own eyes. Every compliment she received was dismissed as politeness. Every small mistake became evidence that she was a fraud about to be exposed. Katie's inner voice had convinced her that her success was just luck, that she didn't deserve what she had achieved, that any day now, people would realize she wasn't as smart as they thought. This brilliant, accomplished woman was torturing herself with thoughts that had no basis in reality. And the cost? Katie was working 18-hour days, not because her business demanded it, but because her inner critic demanded it. She was making herself sick trying to prove to a voice in her head that she was worthy of the success she had already earned. This is what happens when we let our inner critic run our lives. It doesn't just steal our happiness, it steals our health, our relationships, our potential, and our peace of mind. It convinces us that punishment is the path to improvement, that if we're not suffering, we're not growing, that if we're not criticizing ourselves, we become complacent and lazy. But here's the truth that will change everything for you. Self-criticism has never created lasting improvement in anyone's life. Never. Not once, not ever, you see. Your brain operates on a simple principle. Whatever you focus on expands. Whatever you give attention to grows stronger. When you constantly focus on what's wrong with you, what's missing in your life, what you're not doing well enough, you're actually training your brain to see more problems, more failures, more reasons to feel inadequate. It's like having a security system in your house that's designed to protect you, but instead of watching for real threats, it's programmed to see danger in everything. The mailman becomes a burglar. Your neighbor becomes a spy. Your own shadow becomes something to fear. The system meant to protect you is now destroying your peace of mind. Your inner critic works the same way. It was originally designed to help you avoid mistakes and improve your performance, but somewhere along the line it got corrupted. Now it sees every small error as a catastrophic failure. Every minor setback is proof of your incompetence. Every human mistake is evidence that you're fundamentally flawed. And here's the most dangerous part. Your inner critic has convinced you that it's helping. It's made you believe that without its constant vigilance, you would fall apart. That without its harsh criticism, you would stop trying to improve. That without its relentless standards, you would become mediocre. This is the biggest lie you've ever been told. The truth is, your inner critic is not protecting you, it's imprisoning you. It's not motivating you, it's exhausting you. It's not making you better, it's making you bitter. Think about the most successful, happy, and fulfilled people you know. Do they walk around constantly criticizing themselves? Do they spend their days focused on everything they're doing wrong? Do they treat themselves like their own worst enemy? Of course not. Successful people have learned something that unsuccessful people haven't. They've learned that self-compassion is not self-indulgence. They've learned that being kind to yourself is not being soft on yourself. They've learned that the voice in your head can be your greatest asset or your greatest liability. And they've chosen to make it an asset. But changing this voice isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is perfect. It's not about lowering your standards or accepting mediocrity. It's about understanding that there's a difference between healthy self-evaluation and destructive self-attack. When you evaluate yourself constructively, you look at what happened, what you can learn from it, and how you can do better next time. When you attack yourself destructively, you make it about your character, your worth, your fundamental adequacy as a human being. The difference between these two approaches will determine whether you thrive or merely survive, whether you grow or stay stuck, whether you live with confidence or live in fear. Right now, you have a choice to make. You can continue letting your inner critic control your life, or you can take back control of the most important conversation you will ever have, the conversation between you and yourself. Now that you understand you're at war with yourself, let me show you how to win that war. But first, you need to understand something crucial. The solution is not to eliminate that voice in your head. That's impossible and unnecessary. The solution is to change its programming. Think of your mind like a radio that's been tuned to the wrong station for years. You've been listening to Critic FM, the station that plays nothing but harsh commentary about your life. The volume is always turned up high, and the programming never stops. But here's what you didn't know. You control the dial. You always have. The station you want to tune into is Growth FM. This station doesn't ignore your mistakes or pretend everything is perfect. Instead, it reports on your life with accuracy, wisdom, and kindness. It acknowledges problems without declaring you a failure. It recognizes areas for improvement without attacking your character. Let me tell you about Thomas, a sales manager who discovered this power switch 3 years ago. Thomas had always been a high performer, but he paid a terrible price for his success. After every sales call, he would replay the conversation in his mind, focusing exclusively on what he said wrong, what questions he should have asked, what objections he handled poorly. And his wife noticed that he would come home from successful days still upset about minor mistakes. She watched him turn victories into defeats by focusing on the one client who said no instead of the 5 who said yes. She saw a man who was succeeding in business but failing at happiness. Then Thomas learned something that changed everything. He learned that his brain was not reporting facts about his performance. It was interpreting events through a filter of fear and inadequacy. The same sales call that his manager praised as excellent, Thomas experienced as a failure because of 2 questions he forgot to ask. The breakthrough came when Thomas realized he was not listening to reality. He was listening to a distorted translation of reality, created by years of conditioning that told him he was never good enough. So Thomas did something radical. He started treating his thoughts like suggestions instead of commands. When his mind said, "That presentation was terrible, you forgot 3 important points," Thomas learned to respond differently. Instead of accepting this as truth, he would ask, "Is this helpful? Is this accurate? Is this the complete picture?" The complete picture showed that his presentation landed 2 new clients and impressed his boss. Yes, he forgot 3 points, but he covered 15 others brilliantly. The old Thomas would have ignored the 15 and tortured himself about the 3. The new Thomas acknowledged all 18 points and used the 3 as learning opportunities for next time. This shift didn't happen overnight. Thomas had to retrain his brain the same way you would retrain a puppy, with patience, consistency, and repetition, every time his mind started its old pattern of harsh criticism. He would interrupt it with a simple question: what would I tell my best friend if he were in this situation? The answer was always kinder, wiser, and more helpful than his original thought. His best friend deserved encouragement after a good effort. His best friend deserved recognition for progress, not punishment for imperfection. His best friend deserved honest feedback delivered with care, not brutal criticism delivered with cruelty. Here's what Thomas discovered that will change your life too. Self-compassion is not about lowering your standards. It's about raising your effectiveness. When you stop wasting energy attacking yourself, you have more energy available for actual improvement. Yeah, think about it logically. If you have an employee who makes a mistake, which approach gets better results? Screaming at them, calling them incompetent, and making them feel terrible about themselves, or calmly reviewing what happened, identifying the lesson, and supporting them to do better next time? Every manager knows the answer. The second approach builds confidence, encourages learning, and creates loyalty. The first approach creates fear, destroys creativity, and leads to resignation. Yet, somehow, when it comes to managing ourselves, we choose the approach that we know doesn't work. The science backs this up completely. Research shows that people who practice self-compassion recover from setbacks faster, take more intelligent risks, and maintain motivation longer than people who practice self-criticism. They also report higher levels of life satisfaction, better physical health, and stronger relationships. But here's the part that might surprise you. Self-compassionate people actually have higher standards than self-critical people, not lower ones. They pursue excellence because they want to grow and contribute, not because they're afraid of being judged. They're motivated by possibility, not by fear. When you're motivated by fear, you play not to lose. When you're motivated by possibility, you play to win. The difference in results is extraordinary. Self-critical people set goals to avoid feeling bad about themselves. Self-compassionate people set goals to create something meaningful. Self-critical people stop trying when they fail because failure confirms their worst fears about themselves. Self-compassionate people keep trying when they fail because failure is simply information about what didn't work. This is why Thomas's sales numbers actually improved after he stopped being so hard on himself. He wasn't distracted by internal battles anymore. He wasn't drained by constant self-punishment. He wasn't afraid to try new approaches because he knew that mistakes wouldn't destroy his self-worth. The energy he used to spend on internal warfare, he now invested in external improvement. The attention he used to give to his inadequacies, he now focused on his clients' needs. The time he used to spend replaying failures, he now spent preparing for future success. But the most important change wasn't in his performance. It was in his peace of mind. Thomas finally understood that he didn't have to earn his own approval through perfect performance. He could give himself the same patience and encouragement that he would give someone he cared about. This is the power switch you need to flip. From self-attack to self-support. From internal warfare to internal partnership. From being your own worst enemy to being your own best ally. Now that you understand the power of switching from self-criticism to self-compassion, let me give you the exact blueprint to make this transformation real in your daily life. These are not theories or concepts. These are practical tools that work in the real world, with real problems, under real pressure. The first tool in your transformation toolkit is what I call the pause and replace technique. Most people try to stop negative self-talk by fighting it, suppressing it, or pretending it doesn't exist. This never works because what you resist persists. Instead, you're going to learn to redirect it. Here's how it works. The moment you catch yourself in harsh self-criticism, you pause. Don't fight the thought. Don't judge yourself for having it. Just pause. Then you ask yourself one simple question. What would a wise, loving mentor say to me right now? Notice I didn't say, what would a friend say? Because sometimes friends just agree with us to make us feel better. A wise, loving mentor tells you the truth, but delivers it in a way that helps you grow rather than tears you down. Let me show you this in action. Rachel, a project manager at a tech company, used to devastate herself every time a project hit a snag. When her team missed a deadline last month, her old internal dialogue went like this. You're a terrible manager. You should have seen this coming. You're going to get fired. Everyone thinks you're incompetent. Using the pause and replace technique, Rachel caught herself and asked the mentor question. The wise, loving mentor in her mind said, this deadline miss is disappointing, but it's not a catastrophe. What can you learn from this? What systems can you put in place to catch issues earlier next time? How can you communicate with your team more effectively? Same situation, completely different internal experience. The mentor voice acknowledged the problem without making it about Rachel's worth as a person. It focused on solutions rather than blame. It looked forward rather than backward. The second tool is the evidence gathering method. Your inner critic loves to make sweeping statements based on limited evidence. You always mess up presentations. You never finish what you start. Everyone else is better at this than you. These statements feel true when you're in the middle of them, but they're almost always false. So you're going to become a detective of your own life. When your inner critic makes a claim, you're going to demand evidence. I always mess up presentations. Really, what about the presentation last month that led to 3 new clients? What about the one where your boss specifically complimented your preparation? What about the quarterly review where 5 people mentioned your clear communication? When you start gathering evidence, you realize that your inner critic is not a reliable narrator. It's like a news reporter who only covers disasters and ignores all the positive stories. It's not giving you the complete picture of your life. The third tool is the learning lab mindset. Instead of seeing mistakes as proof of your inadequacy, you're going to start seeing them as data from your personal learning laboratory. Every mistake becomes a valuable experiment that teaches you something important. James, an entrepreneur I worked with, used to shut down emotionally every time one of his business ideas didn't work out. He would spend weeks replaying what went wrong, calling himself stupid, and questioning whether he should be in business at all. Then James adopted the Learning Lab mindset. When his latest product launch fell short of projections, instead of attacking himself, he treated it like a scientist analyzing experiment results. What worked? What didn't work? What assumptions were wrong? What would he test differently next time? This shift was revolutionary. James went from seeing failure as a judgment on his character to seeing it as tuition paid to the University of Experience. He started launching new products faster because he wasn't paralyzed by fear of making mistakes. His confidence grew because each failure was actually making him smarter and more skilled. The fourth tool is the daily reset ritual. Most people end their day by reviewing everything they did wrong. This programs your subconscious mind to focus on problems and reinforces self-critical patterns. Instead, you're going to end each day with a different ritual every night before bed. You'll write down 3 things. One thing you did well that day, one thing you learned, and one thing you're grateful for. This trains your brain to notice progress, growth, and abundance instead of just problems and deficits. Sarah, a marketing director, was skeptical when she first tried this. It feels fake, she said, like I'm trying to convince myself everything is perfect when it's not. But after 30 days of the daily reset ritual, something changed. Sarah started noticing positive things throughout her day, not just at night when she was forced to write them down. Her brain had been retrained to look for evidence of competence and progress, not just evidence of failure and inadequacy. This didn't make her complacent or lower her standards. It made her more confident and more willing to take on bigger challenges. The fifth and final tool is the future self visualization. When you're being hard on yourself, you're usually focused on past mistakes or current problems. This technique shifts your focus to who you're becoming. Once a week, spend 10 minutes visualizing yourself 1 year from now, having made the changes you want to make. See yourself handling challenges with confidence and self-compassion. See yourself recovering quickly from setbacks. See yourself treating yourself with the same kindness you show others. This isn't wishful thinking, this is mental rehearsal. Athletes use visualization to improve performance. You're going to use it to improve your relationship with yourself. These 5 tools work because they interrupt old patterns and create new ones. They give your brain something constructive to do instead of just trying to stop destructive thoughts. They provide a clear path from where you are now to where you want to be. Remember, changing lifelong patterns takes time and practice. You didn't become self-critical overnight, and you won't become self-compassionate overnight either. But with these tools and consistent application, you can make this transformation real in your life. You now have the blueprint for transformation. You understand the war you've been fighting. You know how to flip the power switch, and you have 5 practical tools to create change. But here's what separates people who transform their lives from people who just collect good advice: implementation and integration. The truth is, most people will hear this message, get excited about it, maybe even try 1 or 2 techniques, and then gradually slide back into their old patterns. Why? Because they treat self-compassion like a quick fix instead of a complete upgrade to their mental operating system. Think about it this way. You've been running an outdated program in your mind for years. This program was written when you were young, updated with every criticism you received, every mistake you made, every time someone made you feel not good enough. Now you're trying to install a new program, but you're doing it while the old program is still running in the background. This creates a conflict. Part of you wants to be kinder to yourself, but another part of you believes that kindness is dangerous. Part of you wants to focus on progress, but another part insists on focusing on problems. Part of you wants to trust yourself, but another part warns that you can't be trusted. The solution is not to fight this internal conflict. The solution is to gradually replace the old operating system with a new one. And that requires a systematic approach. A lot of decisions. Let me tell you about Michael, a doctor who went through this exact transformation 2 years ago. Michael was brilliant at his job, respected by colleagues, loved by patients, but inside his own mind he was miserable. Every medical decision was second-guessed. Every patient interaction was analyzed for mistakes. Every day ended with a mental review of what he should have done better. Michael's breakthrough came when he realized he needed to treat his self-criticism like a medical condition. He couldn't just wish it away or think positive thoughts to cure it. He needed a treatment plan with specific interventions, measurable progress markers, and realistic timelines. So Michael created what he called his self-compassion recovery plan. Phase 1 was awareness. For 1 week, he simply noticed when he was being self-critical without trying to change anything. He kept a small notebook and made a mark every time he caught himself in harsh internal dialogue. By the end of the week, Michael had made 43 marks. 43 times in 7 days he had attacked himself for minor imperfections. He was shocked. He had no idea it was happening that frequently. Phase 2 was intervention. Michael chose just one of the 5 tools we discussed earlier and committed to using it consistently for 30 days. He picked the pause and replace technique because it was simple and could be used anywhere. Here's the key. Michael didn't try to use all 5 tools at once. He didn't try to completely transform his thinking overnight. He focused on building one new habit at a time, the same way he would recommend a patient make one lifestyle change at a time, rather than trying to overhaul their entire life simultaneously. After 30 days of consistent practice with the pause and replace technique, something remarkable happened. Michael realized he was actually looking forward to catching himself in self-critical moments because it gave him an opportunity to practice his new skill. The very thing that used to drain his energy was now becoming a source of empowerment. Phase 3 was expansion. Michael gradually added the other tools, one at a time, allowing each to become natural before moving to the next. The evidence gathering method, the learning lab mindset, the daily reset ritual, the future self visualization by month 6. Michael had completely transformed his internal experience. He still made medical decisions carefully and held himself to high standards, but he no longer tortured himself for being human. He no longer wasted energy on self-punishment that could be better spent on patient care. The most profound change wasn't in how Michael felt about himself, it was in how he showed up for others. When you stop fighting an internal war, you have so much more energy and attention available for the people and causes that matter to you. Michael's wife noticed that he came home more present and engaged. His patients sensed that he was more relaxed and confident. His colleagues saw that he was more willing to take on challenging cases and less defensive when discussing difficult decisions. This is what happens when you upgrade your mental operating system from self-criticism to self-compassion. The benefits ripple out into every area of your life. Your relationships improve because you're not constantly seeking validation from others to counteract your internal criticism. Your work improves because you're motivated by growth rather than fear. Your health improves because you're no longer carrying the stress of constant self-attack. Your dreams expand because you're willing to risk failure without risking self-destruction. But none of this happens automatically. It happens through deliberate, consistent practice over time. It happens by treating this transformation as seriously as you would treat any other important goal in your life. So here's your action plan starting today. Choose one tool from the 5 we discussed, just one. Practice it every day for the next 30 days. Set a reminder on your phone, write it on your bathroom mirror, do whatever it takes to make it automatic. Don't worry about perfection. Don't judge yourself for forgetting some days. Remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. Every time you catch yourself being harsh and choose to be kind instead, you're rewiring your brain. Every time you replace self-attack with self-support, you're building new neural pathways. After 30 days, add a second tool. After another 30 days, add a third. Build this transformation methodically, systematically, and sustainably. 1 year from today, you can be living in a completely different internal reality. One where mistakes don't define your worth, where setbacks don't destroy your confidence, where you treat yourself with the same compassion you show to others. The war between you and yourself can end today, but only if you choose to lay down your weapons and pick up these tools instead. The power has always been in your hands. Now you know how to use it.